Hey guys, we are live. I'm Jeff with eBay Addicts, and I got a brand new guest for you guys today. I have Wyatt is here from Rewilded Reselling. How are you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm
Good.
blessed. I can't
Yeah,
complain, man. So
yeah,
I've been a subscriber of your channel for a while, and I reached out to you, I think last week or a couple days ago, to ask you to come on. So I'm glad you can jump on and hang out with us for a little bit today. Tell
yeah.
everybody in the audience, if they're not familiar with you, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and tell them what it is that you do.
Okay. Well, yeah, my name is Wyatt, and I am a full-time reseller. I live in South Carolina. So we were just talking about Flippy McFlipperson, Harry Tornado. Those guys all are pretty close to me. And I actually got into reselling. I'm sure we'll get into this, but by watching Josh's channel. So yeah, that was kind of my avenue into reselling. But yeah, I have a wife. You can see some pictures right there. There's my wife when she was pregnant. We have a daughter. She's 2.5, and and my wife is actually a bookkeeper. She runs a bookkeeping business. She's self-employed for resellers. So she actually has a lot of clients who, if I started saying names, a lot of you guys would know them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got a chance to catch up on some of your recent videos. So
Yeah.
tell me, man, where did you and your wife meet, and how long have you guys been together?
Well, we've been married just over 5 years now. We met in Georgia, technically in college. We were going to a small college there, and
Mhm.
so I'm actually originally from New Mexico. Then when I was 12, I moved to Texas. So I went from New Mexico to Texas to a small school in Georgia to play basketball. I was on a scholarship to play basketball, and uh, and then I met Jenna there. So we started dating, and then we actually did long distance for about a year, and then we got
Yeah.
married. She moved to Texas with me for we were there for like 8 months after we got married, and then we decided to move here. So she's from
Wow.
North Carolina. So
Yeah, well, that's cool. You guys were in Georgia, then you went to Texas, and then you guys moved to South Carolina. We're live. I want to say hello real quick to some people in the chat. We
yeah.
have Zombie Bargain Hunter is here. Says, "What's up, peeps? Thanks for hanging out." My brother is here in the chat. Bearded Veteran is here,
Okay,
and
cool.
we were actually just talking about you. Says,
Yeah,
"I'm Jenna Riot's wife." So
yeah,
if you guys have questions for our guest, you could drop it in the chat. So that's
yeah.
awesome. So how long have you guys been married now?
5 years.
Okay, cool. And you have a 2-year-old daughter, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I told you I was a subscriber of your channel. You didn't believe
Yeah,
me.
you know your
So
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so that's cool. And so tell me, so you were watching a YouTube video one day because you mentioned Harry Tornado. He was one of my
Yeah.
previous guests. So you were watching a YouTube video one day and you came across Harry Tornado's YouTube channel, and then were you like watching the video and it's like, man, I got to try this out to see if what
Yeah.
he's telling me is legit? Or
Yeah.
because you said you live in South Carolina, so did you
I
like bump into him one day at a thrift store? Or tell us a story about how this happened.
No, actually it's really funny. Me and Josh joke about this all the time. So uh my daughter was about to be born, like Jenna was pregnant, and I worked at a gym. I was a trainer, like a fitness trainer for like 3.5 years, and I was kind of like the manager of the gym. And it was a super flexible job. Like it was like probably not quite full time, but it was good. It was good work. But it was kind of a split schedule. So I kind of had the middle of the day where I didn't have much going on every day. So I started getting curious about like different avenues of just like entrepreneurship. Anyways, one day I was just selling stuff, not to try to flip it. I was just literally selling stuff around the house that I wanted to get rid of. And I had a
Yeah.
box of hats. And this is before Josh was Harry Tornado. I mean, Josh was just a dude, and he had just started flipping apparently, from what I've gathered. And he messaged me on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I'd like to buy all your hats, or whatever." And what's funny is I turned him down because he was trying to get them at kind of like a discounted, like a bulk rate, so he could flip them, and I was trying to
Yeah.
get 15-20 bucks a hat. So it didn't really work out, but somehow or another, I clicked on his Facebook, like his personal profile, and he had just like uploaded a YouTube video and posted it on his Facebook. So I click on the YouTube video, and he only had 800 subscribers at this time. But he was at a yard sale in the video, and I just remember watching, and I was like, "What? Like he just sells anything?" Because I was originally trying to get into like flipping sneakers,
Right.
like retail arbitrage type of stuff. So anyways, I didn't know that people did this. I really didn't understand. Like my whole life, I never knew anybody that sold anything on eBay, so it was very foreign to me.
Right.
I watched his video and I was like, well, next time I go to the thrift store, instead of just looking for shoes and stuff, I'm gonna like look for anything. And that was how that started. That was in 2019. So 3 years
Yeah,
ago.
that's cool. I got started in reselling the same way. I was watching a YouTube video one day and came across a bigger YouTuber, and I had always bought stuff on eBay before, but the light bulb never went
Yeah,
off in my brain to thinking like, wait a minute, like where's this stuff coming from? Maybe I
right.
could go and resell it. And
And
then
like,
when you see other people doing it, and they're like loading up their van or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, we've been here for an hour and a half, and we're gonna make $1,000 profit in like an hour and a half, and
crazy.
I'm driving a forklift in 100-degree heat to make
Yeah,
$1,000 working 50, 60
yeah,
hours in a sweaty factory driving a forklift. I'm like, wait a minute,
yeah,
let's check into this and see if this is real. So
yeah.
how long did you kind of keep your job? So I assume you checked into it and you were still working your job at the
Yeah.
gym, and then you were kind of reselling on the side. How long did you do reselling like as your part-time gig before you kind of jumped in and went full-time and decided like, all right, I'm going to put my 2 weeks notice in and kind of
Yeah.
go full-time? Tell us about how that went.
Yeah, so I would have gotten started like flipping on the side. That would have been like the fall of 2019,
Yeah.
maybe like late summer. I just started building that up, like learning more about, well, what can I sell and everything, and kind of built my inventory up. Because I remember asking Josh, like, hey, if I ever was gonna do this full time, like, what's a good number of active listings that I could have or whatever. And, it's hard to give a specific number, but he was like, you definitely want several hundred like listings before you're making, like before you're selling stuff every day, without having to, kill yourself. So that's what I did. I kind of did it part-time for a while, learned what I was doing, and then got to a point during 2020 where I was just ready to transition. I mean, I had been working that gym job for like 3.5 years, and I liked fitness, but I didn't love fitness. And
Right.
so I was kind of like the owner's right hand man with management too, not just like training, but like back end stuff, like systems, that kind of stuff. So like it got to the point where I knew how much he loved his business, and I knew the direction he was wanting to go, and he really needed somebody else that like was gung ho about fitness, and I just wasn't that guy. So we kind of had a conversation like April of, or like April, something like that, of 2020, and I was like, I just want to be very honest with you. Like I've been flipping stuff on eBay. I can really see this being like a full-time business, and I would love to start a YouTube channel. So I was like, let's talk about how we can make this transition. And he was awesome. He said, man, like, because at the time we were trying to get into this house that we're in too. So I really couldn't quit my job technically because I needed that W-2, to get a loan and everything. So it was cool. I had like a 6-month transition from the gym. We kind of
Yeah.
decreased my time like every couple months until I was able to really like go to nothing, train somebody to take my spot, and I was gone. So like right after my birthday, so like at the beginning of November of 2020 is when I went full time.
Okay. And so at the time you said that you guys were in the process of buying a house. You said your wife was pregnant at the time. You guys are married, you have a family. So it's not like you're a bachelor and you're like, well, if things
Right.
get tough, I can just eat this Hot Pockets and pretzels
Yeah.
and nachos and I'm good. Like you have
Exactly.
to actually make sure that you're still bringing enough money in to cover the
Yeah.
bills, because you're going to
Yeah.
have a mortgage and
You're right.
utilities and you got to put food on the table. So
Yeah.
tell me, how was that going for you, knowing where you had this full-time gig, you have a guaranteed check coming in on every Friday, as opposed to being like, okay, now I'm just going to do a job where I'm only going to get paid on commission only. So how
Yeah.
did that like transition work for you? Because I'm sure, you were nervous, and kind of talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about how that was for you.
Yeah. Very nervous actually. You know, we I did it part-time long enough, and we didn't need like the eBay money, that I did just like keep all of my eBay money like in an account, and it just sat there. So there was kind of a buffer period. Like when I knew when I quit the gym, I didn't have to be like absolutely killing it from day one, because I knew I had some money. So that was good. I mean, I think it was great that I basically built it up for like a year and a half before I went full time. um, some people lose their job and then they're forced into figuring it out. Thankfully, that wasn't really my route. I mean, I asked Josh early on, what would you like, what would be your advice? And he was like, I mean, because he lost his job and had to be full time. I had a 6-month period of time where I knew it was coming. So yeah, when I give advice to other people, I'm like, yeah, I mean, if it's possible, like, do it part time and build it up to where when you quit, you're not like, it's not a shock to you, like how much you have to actually list and source and all that stuff. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it was scary, thankfully my wife's she's always been on board with it. And she was just like, whenever we do this, it'll be okay. You know how to increase your sales, how to increase business. And you'll just, and when you're looking at it, like when you're part-time and you're only putting like 15 hours into it a week and you're seeing the results in your mind, you're like, well, what if I had 40 hours? And that's where I was at. I was like, I actually got to a point where at the gym, I felt like I was losing money by working at the gym because I knew how much more money I could be making if I was listing, and selling stuff on eBay. So that was actually the real wake up moment for me. I was like, dang, like I make a pretty good living at the gym, but I'm if I want to look at it hourly, I'm actually losing money when I'm here. So,
Yeah. I know it feels that way, but I think one thing that people kind of overlook is when you're doing it part time, you have this extra check coming in every week, every Friday. And so you're not really looking at cost of goods because when you get, let's say hypothetically, you're selling 10 grand a month on eBay. Well, then you have to take out your cost of goods, your eBay fees, shipping costs, all this stuff. And then at the end of the month, let's say you made 10 grand, you might have to take 2,500 or 3 grand of that and then use it to buy inventory for the following month. As whereas when you have a full-time job and you're kind of doing eBay as a side hustle, you don't really think about the money that you have to have for the following month to buy inventory because you got that check coming in on Friday. So I think that's one thing that people kind of struggle with. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Casey is here, the Carolina Thrifter. We were actually just talking about you before we went live, man. So thanks for jumping in and hanging out with us today. Because Casey also lives in South Carolina. And I wanted to say hey to Guan Pug is here in the chat. And my brother is here in the chat. He wants to know, where do you source most of your inventory? And he said, do you have a specific market that you lean towards? And what kind of items do you sell the most of? So where do you like sourcing at? And do you have a certain niche of items that you kind of stick to?
Yeah. I'm pretty open to anything, but I definitely do probably 75% of my sourcing from thrift stores. South Carolina's got a pretty good thrift store culture. Like, I'm sure that there's great thrift stores everywhere. Our prices are pretty low and they've stayed low, like even through COVID and stuff. So, I've got 3 in the town that I live in. And then if I go to the bigger, like Lexington and Columbia, South Carolina, I mean, there's dozens of thrift stores. So plenty of thrift store options. Now that it's getting warmer, I mean, I'm about to really hop into yard sales a lot more, which is great for the YouTube side of it because you can just get some really interesting dialogues with people at yard sales and stuff. So I think it's interesting YouTube content. And then I've actually got we have a good community here. Like we know a ton of people from like the church that we go to and stuff. So I've actually had, even lately, a lot of people have just given me stuff to sell because they're cleaning out for spring cleaning kind of stuff. So, occasionally I just get these big lots of random stuff from people that I know. But as far as items, I mean, I love selling shoes and that kind of stuff, hats, but I'm open to really anything. I mean, I'll sell books, I'll sell electronics if I feel like I can test it well. I love selling golf clubs. Probably not quite as much as Casey. Probably 2 steps down from Casey as far as golf clubs, but I do like selling golf clubs. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So, what would you say if someone wanted to become a full-time reseller? What would you tell them as far as how many items they need to have listed in their eBay store? And what would you say that you need to have, like, your gross sales to be? Because you have to have enough money, like I said, to reinvest for capital to buy inventory. but then you also have to cover all your expenses as well. So how do you kind of look at it as opposed to you're like, okay, here's what my sales are, here's my cost of goods, this is how much money that I had to pay in eBay fees, this is how much left over, this is how much I'm going to pay myself. How do you kind of go ahead and decipher that? And what would be like your 2 or 3 like piece of advice as far as telling somebody if they wanted to go full time and be a reseller?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is variables. Obviously, like it depends on what kind of stuff you're selling. But if you're doing like regular kind of thrift store, yard sale type items, and I've always tell people like uh, my average sale price is about $30 to $35. Like just on average, most of my items sell for about that much. And on average, I'm probably spending $6-7 on each item. So you can kind of do the math there. But if you're in that somewhere in that range, I think you would need at least probably, in my opinion, like 400 items plus like active listings, because then you just know you're selling stuff every day. And I think that's what you're looking for, because it's hard to tell with what I do. It's hard to know if, okay, I could go to the thrift store right now and I could end up finding 5 pairs of used running shoes that are going to sell for $25 plus shipping. Or I could also find a set of golf clubs that's going to sell for $250. So it's kind of hard to plan for what you're about to go find. But if you're kind of continually sourcing 2, 3, 4 times a week, and you have about, let's just say 350 plus active items, then and you're listing a few items every day, it's like I mean, I've been doing that for 2 years now. I've had basically over 400 active listings for at least 2 years, like steady. Sometimes that goes up to 450 or 500, but and I sell stuff every day. So I think that's what you want to get to, is like at least you're having some sales every day. And I think I average probably 5 sales a day. That's pretty typical, like 5 or 6. And of course, you have your days when you might have 8, 9, 10 sales. So I don't know. There's a lot of variables. It depends on what you sell. It depends on the cost of living where you live, because South Carolina is a very low cost of living. Like I've made it public on my YouTube before, but like for the longest time, I basically paid myself. So from my business account, and I got my wife in the comments, she's huge on having separate accounts for your business and your personal, but like I make a transfer from my business to my personal for $550 every week. My wife has a great job. Like has her own business and she makes money too. So I don't have to do anymore. But like, depending on your situation, if you were a bachelor or you were single or whatever, then I guess all of that would change. I can't really speak to that. But for me, with my wife also having an income, yeah, I think get you several hundred listings, make sure you're selling a few things every day before you go and quit your job.
Well, yeah, and I was watching one of your recent videos, and you were talking about being consistent with your listings as well. So, because you want to kind of trigger the eBay algorithm to kind of help trigger the sales and growing your store. So, let me say hello real quick to Nita J is here in the chat. Mom's Closets, Texas, Christy. Hey, I think I was just watching you on Instagram earlier. I hope you're having a good day. I wanted to give a shout out to BK from the Rockies is here. I'd flip that is here in the chat. Says, hey guys, I was glad I was able to come here and watch. Thanks for hanging out. I wanted to say hey to Regina is here, and Casey says, what were you all saying about me? Oh, nothing bad. We were just saying that you live in South Carolina, and we just wanted to know if you got a chance to meet up, because we were talking about how you and Flippy McFlipperson and Julie and the Bearded Thrift Machine, how there was a lot of resellers, Harry Tornado, people that lived in the South Carolina area. So I was just checking to see if you guys had got a chance to meet up. So tell me a little bit about your YouTube channel. If people are not familiar with your channel, what kind of gave you what the drive or motivation to start a YouTube channel? Because people don't realize when you start a channel from scratch, I mean, they're probably working for about 10 months or a year just to get to the monetization point where you reach your 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. You're basically working for free for like the first year. Just, I guess YouTube wants to make sure you really want it bad enough. So tell me what your what that was like for you, and tell people what kind of content you make on your channel.
Yeah. So my channel is, I do about 2 videos a week on average. Sometimes I slip in a third one, but usually it's either me out in the thrift stores, the yard sales, sourcing. I'll bring it back and show what I got, and I'll usually do like a potential profit type of thing. here's kind of what I paid for these. Here's what I'm estimating they can sell for. And then also I do some footage just at my house, like more of a vlog style in my garage. And it could be anything from shipping tips to a what sold type of video. But the YouTube, I started when I went full time. So I went full time with reselling and started my channel at the same time because I was like, I want to document the whole journey, you know. And I was really fortunate to get a shout out from Harry Tornado really early on, which again, he and I connected early on, like before his channel was so big, that we have a cool relationship just because I know him a little bit differently than just him on YouTube. And we've spent time with him and Haley before. So there's a little bit different relationship there. So, but he's been really helpful. I mean, over the couple of years, just giving me advice. But yeah, I mean, he was like, dude, I think you'd be great on YouTube. You should do it. And so I started that when I went full time in 2020. And like you said, I mean, it took me like, I don't know exactly what month, but it took me like a year and a half to get monetized. And what's really interesting is like, I had the subscribers early on because you get a shout out from a larger channel. And I actually got a second shout out from another large channel, but they're not resellers. It was a different thing. But I got this huge like subscriber like influx, but it's, you know, you have to maintain them also. And like at the time I was only doing like one video a week. I've never really live streamed much, so I wasn't racking up hours doing that. So yeah, YouTube's its whole, I've told friends of mine, not reseller friends, like just my friends here, like YouTube is like the hardest thing I think I've ever done because I didn't have a background in editing videos. I didn't have a background in being filmed. So it's like, and then there's nothing you can really do besides continuing to do the work and being consistent to magically make something happen. So it can really humble you. Like it makes me feel like, you know, wow.
I'm with you, bro. Yeah, I got a background of driving a forklift to being a delivery driver. So when you're doing that and now producing YouTube content, it's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. And people think that just because you're a YouTuber, your channel is monetized, you make a bunch of money. And it's not even close to the case at all. And with reselling, you can pull up your phone and look up sold comps, and eBay will tell you before you buy that item how many have sold in the past 90 days. With YouTube, you can put out content and there's no like, you know, you don't know if it's going to perform well or not. You just gotta kind of keep hustling and working at it. So hey, we got a question here from the chat from Mom's Closet, Texas. Christy says, where do you see yourself doing this long term, and do you have any other career goals? That's a good question because I was getting ready to ask you the same thing. Like, what do you envision doing yourself in the future, like as far as your reselling business and your YouTube channel? Do you see yourself doing this long term as far as reselling? And do you have any other career goals? That's the question in the chat.
Yeah, that's a great question, Christy. So sorry, the allergies here, like the South Carolina, the pollen is getting me. So, but anyways, I think that for reselling and YouTube, I do see this as a long-term something that I'm working towards. I'm not a huge goals person, but I mean, I do, like, I love reselling. Like, I love it. I'm really enjoying making videos now. Like at the beginning, like the first year was tough because you don't feel like you're that good at editing videos and you're not getting this affirmation all the time because you have a small channel. Like you're not getting a lot of comments. So all of that stuff makes YouTube like its own. You really have to want it like for yourself because there's not like, so I was like I was a college basketball player. Well, that all fell on me. Like if I wanted to feel good about how I was playing or whatever, it came down to me putting in the work, and the results were kind of instant. Like I go play, I score the X amount of point, we win. There's a lot of camaraderie with your teammates. There's other people hyping you up. You have a coaching staff. With YouTube and reselling, there's nothing like that. Like I work for me. I'm at my house in my garage doing all the parts of the business for myself. And then when it comes to videos, you know, when you're at this stage in the game with a small channel, one video might do really well and you're really happy, and the next video might not do very well, and you're like, what do I do differently? So So that, yeah, but I do see myself doing this long term. I do see myself getting into, this is kind of something Jenna and I have dreamed about over the years. We would love to get into like having Airbnb properties and like staffing, like having like a cleaning staff for one, and like doing them in different places, not just here, but like in different cities. That's like maybe a long-term dream of ours. Just to have Airbnbs, like to be able to host people. And that can become like a really cool passive income. And even with reselling, I don't think that I could ever make that a huge focal point, but I do feel like over the years, like if I had enough influence, I think you could add something like that into a reselling channel just as like a side note, and it'd be interesting content because it's kind of the same concept. Like you're subleasing maybe something and then you're just renting it out for more, and you're basically just doubling your money every month. I mean, it's that same type of business, you know?
Yeah, awesome. Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to Bearded Thrift Machine. He says, "Hey, eBay addicts and Wyatt. Hey, man, thanks for coming by and hanging out. We were just talking about you, saying that you lived in South Carolina as well. So do you have any plans to grow and scale your business, or if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I want to grow and scale my resale business"? What would be their top 2 or 3 best piece of advice that you would give them if somebody hasn't started, or maybe they're doing it as a part-time hobby or a side hustle, and they want to make it their full-time income? What would you tell them as far as growing or scaling their business to become a full-time income?
Yeah, I mean, I think that getting your, like, if you can get at a place where you're comfortably having, again, I'm kind of speaking to the same type of sourcing that I do. So if you source and sell like different items, I can't really speak to that, but for like my stuff, if you can consistently stay around like 45 to 50% margins, then I think the work's kind of cut out for you. Like if you want to like grow your business, you just source more items, you know, because you know if you're making basically 50% margins like on average, then if you buy double the items, then you'll make double the money. Like I don't know any other way to say it than that. I don't think that I would ever go the employee route. Like I don't know that that's something that I want to do because
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy with where my reselling business is at. Again, if Jenna didn't have a business and we didn't have that income coming in, it would change everything. But for our setup, I don't necessarily need to make more money with the reselling. And that's why I have the YouTube channel to like focus on that and grow that to where, you know, that would be awesome. If YouTube became a greater source of income for us, then that'd be great. But I don't really see myself increasing my reselling business on purpose necessarily. I mean, it could, you know, sometimes you just hit a good streak, but I mean, yeah, I think I'm happy with where it's at. If you were part-time and you're wanting to go to full-time, just like I said earlier, I just think it comes down to knowing what your margins are and then just like learning the patterns of eBay, which is like if you list, you know, 5 items every day and you keep that steady schedule and you have several hundred active listings, like you're gonna sell stuff every day pretty much. I mean,
yeah,
I remember the last time I didn't have a sale in a day. I mean, it happens occasionally, but I mean, you know, once you get to that level, it's like you just kind of consistently have some cash flow. And yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
think
Well,
that's
earlier when you were talking about sourcing more items, to me that means you have to spend more money on the inventory that you're sourcing.
right.
So
That's true.
basically, you have to invest more money into your business if you want to be able to grow and scale it in your business. Because if I spend the same $1,000 every month on inventory, unless I just come across some really good inventory,
Right.
you're
You're
gonna
right.
kind of you're gonna kind of plateau because you're spending the same $1,000 month after month after month
Yeah.
on the same inventory. But if you suddenly says, okay, now I'm going to spend $3,000 this month, and I'm averaging $100 a day that I'm spending on inventory, now
Yeah.
you can grow your business because you're putting more kindling in the fire, putting more
Yeah.
firewood into the fire. So that way, instead of having a little fire, it'll be like a bonfire, you know? So,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to give a shout out to the Southern Geeks is here in the chat. Says, hey, howdy all, glad to finally catch you live. I wanted to say hey to the Bearded Thrift Machine. And Gig Lebowski is here. Hey, thanks for jumping on and hanging out with us. We're just talking to Wyatt about being a full-time reseller. So, man, before we let you go, tell me kind of how your day is structured. Like, how do you go about like waking up in the morning? Do you grab all your items and ship everything out first, and then go sourcing and then listing? Or how many days a week do you usually go sourcing? And then what I know we talked earlier about profit margins. You would say maybe I would buy this item for $6, $7 and sell it for $30. You just said that was your average sell cost. So let's
Yep.
talk a little bit about how your schedule and routine works for you, like Monday through Friday, as far as packing, listing, shipping, all that.
Okay. So, again, my daughter's 2. She's in like a little mother's morning out program, but that's like 2 days a week. So there are days when, since Jenna and I both work from home, that's a whole nother factor too. Like, I have a life, I have a child, I have a wife. So like, it wouldn't be good for me to compare myself to some YouTuber reseller that's single, that's just killing it every day and making 4 videos a week. That'd be horrible for me to compare myself to them because we have a completely different life. So with that in mind, my schedule looks kind of like this. I do usually pack and ship my orders in the morning. Like, that's kind of the first thing I do. I mean, I wake up, probably get my daughter up and whatever, but sometime around 9 in the morning, I usually pack my orders, get those ready. And then I probably go and source, like, intentionally, like I'm going to go to several thrift stores like twice a week, especially now with yard sales. I have 1 day a week when I do yard sales, like usually on Saturdays. So, 2 or 3 times a week where I'm really going out and sourcing. Now, there's a couple of thrift stores like in town right next to my daughter's school, and I have FOMO. So like, I stop by those like 5 times a week because there's really no other competition here. Like, there's not really any resellers in my town. So I mean, it's pretty like, I'll go there 4 times a week and I'll buy something every time just because there's really no one else buying that kind of stuff. So then lunchtime, rolls around. In the afternoons is usually when I like work on listing a few items, editing videos. I don't have a super set schedule on any of that. Like, it could just happen. Sometimes I do a few items first. Sometimes I do editing later. Sometimes if Jenna wants to go to bed a little earlier, I'll stay up and my daughter's asleep. I'll actually list late at night. I'm kind of a night hawk type of guy. Like, sometimes I'll
Right.
list at midnight just to no one else is awake and it's easier to get stuff done. So that's
Right.
kind of my schedule. And I really like, we live a very flexible life. I mean, with us both working from home and Everly not really having school yet, I mean, neither of us are super tied down to a certain schedule. Jenna works more than I do just because her work
Yeah.
like kind of requires a little more of like deadlines and like stuff like that because she's a bookkeeper. But both of us are pretty flexible.
So wait, I gotta pick your brain real quick and ask you a question. Earlier, you said you have people in your community that give you free merchandise to sell. So if you got stuff for free, your cost of goods is zero. It's kind of easy to make a profit when you don't have a lot of money tied up in the inventory.
That's
And I
true.
think kind of telling people what you do, say,
Uh,
hey, I'm a reseller. I think that goes a long way to people
yeah,
saying, hey, I was going to go ahead and donate this at the Goodwill or the thrift store anyways. You're
yeah.
more than welcome to have it. We were going to go ahead and throw this stuff out anyways. Talk to me a little bit about that, your strategy as far as letting the neighborhood or let people know what you do as a reseller and how that can kind of help grow and scale your business. Because like I said, if you're getting inventory for free and your cost of goods is zero, you got pretty good profit margins there. So
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's true. I was almost going to say that earlier. Like, if someone was part-time, you were wanting to scale it so you could become full-time, maybe like just watch your local Facebook groups for like months until you hit like a really good lick where someone's either giving away for free or just giving away for cheap, like a lot of like something, and then all of a sudden, oh, I got 50 new items and they were all free. Now's the moment to go, put in my 2 weeks or whatever. I mean, that could be a way, but yeah, I mean, I think having the YouTube channel in the community that we live in, you know, even filming and not just public. It's easy to go for me. It's easier to go film at a thrift store where I don't know anybody than it is to go film in town where I do know people. But doing that makes people ask questions, and then you tell them. And then when they got stuff laying around that they want to get rid of, the first thing they think of is, oh, there's that one dude who sells stuff on eBay. So that's happened to me probably 5 or 6 times, like recently, and you build connections through that. There's one lady that I've done some different deals with a couple times, but she has her own business where she goes into people's homes and she actually like organizes their, like, it could be one room or it could be the whole house, but there's a certain method that she uses. But a lot of times when that happens, there's like rules for certain things that if it's not like bringing you joy or something like that, then she has to get rid of it for you. But when she does that, I mean, she's just going to go donate it. So instead of donating it, she'll call me and be like, "Hey, do you want this stuff?" And
Yeah.
if she charged me for it, that'd be great. She never does. I've tried to pay her 100 times, but so yeah, just building connections, telling
Right.
people like, "Hey, this is what I do," and not being ashamed of it. Like, it sounds kind of, oh, I sell stuff on eBay. It's true, but I'm like, hey, I love it, and it's
Right.
probably a lot more fun than what you're doing. I mean, just not being ashamed, just telling people, hey, this is what I do. If you ever have anything, let me know. Yeah, it may be a while, but people will think of you when they have stuff to get rid of.
Well, yeah, and building up relationships with people. And like I said, you offer to pay the lady the money for the merchandise, but
Yeah.
just telling people what you do and building up connections, building up relationships with people, because maybe you met a guy and he gets storage lockers, and maybe he has stuff that he, doesn't want to fool with clothing or shoes, and you're like, hey, I'll take it. Because then
Yeah.
at that point, the stuff that's trash, you put in the trash. The stuff that you want to keep, you can keep. And the other stuff that's still good that you don't want to resell, you can just go ahead and donate it. So,
Yeah.
you have very low risk at that point. So, hey, we had a few comments in the chat here. Says Wyatt is talking about a consultant. Can you search for one in your area online? They always have items for clients to get rid of. And it says, hey, Wyatt, can you share how you got started with our first pick of his shoes, using the profits to buy more? So it's really important that you can kind of reinvest your capital back into buying more inventory. So you want to talk about that for a minute? Because I don't know what shoe pickups you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a quick story, but it was right around that same time our daughter was being born. I was actually like, while we were in the hospital, like I was getting my first kind of Facebook messages, people like, hey, will you take this? And it was my first time ever dealing with like clients. So, but yeah, I worked at the gym. This lady was like, hey, I've got this pair of shoes. You could sell them if you want. And I like went and I paid her like, I don't know, Jenna, we paid her $10 maybe. And they sold for like $35. And then I took that money and I went to Goodwill and I, spent it all on 3 or 4 other items and then sold all those. And so, yeah, I literally started with no capital. I just, I spent $10, I guess, and then sold those. And then from there, I just reinvested and now here we are. So.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking another good thing is you being a full-time reseller is you get to spend more time with your wife and your daughter. There's a lot of people that work the regular 9 to 5 jobs and they're going 40, 50, 60 hours a week and they don't have a flexible schedule. They don't get to go to their son's T-ball game or their basketball game because, they have to put 2 weeks notice in to get a vacation day off from work, where if you want to go, you're just like, hey, let's go. Let's everybody hop in the car and go to the T-ball game, and you can kind of be around your family and be there as they grow up. So, hey, man, I appreciate you jumping on and hanging out with us. I know you're not feeling well today, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go early. I told Wyatt I was going to keep him on around 30 to 45 minutes. But tell everybody where they can go by and check you out on YouTube and Instagram so they can go by and follow you on follow your channel.
Yeah, guys, Rewilded Reselling. You can see right there in my name where it says my name right there at the bottom of the screen. Rewilded Reselling on YouTube and Instagram. And then because we kind of do business together, but my wife is in the chat, Ever Leslie Bookkeeping. She does bookkeeping for resellers. So she knows all about the back end work of like transactions, how to categorize that, how to split accounts. I mean, she can help with all of that stuff. She's certified bookkeeper. She's very good at what she does. So if you have questions about that, she's also on Instagram. She doesn't do YouTube, but she's on my YouTube channel. So.
Okay, and so I have all the links down below on YouTube and Instagram. You can check them out. Rewild Reselling. I'm subscribed to his channel. You go ahead and follow him, and you can check him out, follow his channel, and learn more about reselling. Do you have any closing thoughts or final words of wisdom you can leave our audience with, and then we'll let you go?
Well, I said this earlier, but I mean, I think it's a good thing to know. Like, it would be bad for me to compare myself to a reseller who's like 23 years old, single, and has like $500 a month in expenses, and like, I mean, it would just be. So I mean, it's the same for you. If you're in a spot where you feel like you watch YouTubers and you think, gosh, they're like killing it every time they go to the thrift or whatever, their sales are always exploding. Just be careful that you're not comparing your same lifestyle and story to somebody else's. Be inspired by people, but don't compare. So.
Yeah, not everybody has the same amount of capital they can invest to buy inventory. Not everybody has the same amount of hours that they can devote to listing items and shipping. So everybody kind of does things differently. And I
Yeah.
think one more thing that I wanted to add is sometimes if you look at resellers 90-day total or they send post packages
Yeah.
on Instagram, some of that stuff can be kind of deceiving because you don't know how long they've had their merchandise. You don't know what the listing promoted rate is.
Yeah.
You don't know how much money they have tied up in it. You don't
Yeah.
know the cost of goods. You don't know the profit margins. So it's kind of like just kind of be in your own lane, and then it'll
Yeah.
kind of grow and scale over time. It doesn't have to be perfect. But
Yeah.
anyways, I want to thank our guests for jumping on and hanging out with me today. I will see you guys next week. I have a new guest coming on, and we're going to be talking all about Amazon Flex. So I will see you guys next week on Tuesday. Till then, you guys have a great weekend, and you go ahead and follow our guests. All the links are down below for YouTube and Instagram. I will see you guys later. You guys have a great weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.